everybody, it's Emily at Arc Schooling, and welcome back to another episode of Homeschool Tidbits. Welcome to Build Your Library's Homeschool Tidbits, episode 12, where today we're going to be talking about morning baskets again, but this time I'm going to give you some recommended resources. In this weekly video series, I will delve briefly into a topic related to homeschooling, and I'll share some of my knowledge and expertise as a longtime homeschooling mother of 4 children, 3 of whom have graduated. So last week, I talked about morning baskets, and I hope that I've encouraged you to give them a try in your homeschool. But today I wanted to continue that conversation, but talk about some fun and helpful resources that you could use right now to include in your morning basket. These are things that I've used in our morning baskets over the years. So I'm going to do this by topic just to keep it sort of organized. And I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on each resource just to keep this brief, but I'm going to have everything linked in the blog post that accompanies this video. And I just want you to remember that, again, morning baskets can be whatever you want them to be. This is what we have done in the past, but you don't have to do it the same way that I do. Make it work for your homeschool. For our morning basket time, I have set books that we use for our dailies. And then we have a rotation of books that we use on various topics. So Mondays are mythology, Tuesdays we read about fascinating people throughout history, Wednesdays we cover geography, Thursdays are about art appreciation, and on Friday we study philosophy and or critical thinking skills. We've used this rotation for the last 2 years and it served us well, and I feel like we're going to continue that until we don't need to do morning baskets anymore. So today I'm going to share resources based on those specific topics. So let's begin with poetry. We read a poem every single day, and this is something that I started doing a few years back, and my daughter has insisted that we continue. We rotate our resources, and currently we are reading through Favorite Poems Old and New by Helen Ferris, and it's a classic. I've talked about it before. We've also enjoyed the National Geographic poetry books. I just grabbed this one to show you. We have all 3 of them, but this is the animal poetry book. There's also the nature poetry book and the Poetry of Us, which focuses on the United States. And I love these because they're just beautiful. They have absolutely stunning photography throughout, and the poetry is lovely and age appropriate. And I also really love the Poetry for Young People series, and we have, I think, almost all of them at this point. I just grabbed one to show, but our favorites have been Emily Dickinson, Lewis Carroll, and Maya Angelou's book. And I love these because they come with a little biography at the beginning about the author, or the poet rather, and they're beautifully illustrated, so you get a good overview of the poet's style. Now let's move on to mythology. And I call this mythology because that's what we're doing now. But in the past, this has also encompassed world religions and folk tales and fairy tales. We are currently reading stories from the Tanakh, or the Jewish Bible, but here are some other resources that we've enjoyed. I really love the book In the Beginning. This is Creation Stories from Around the World by Virginia Hamilton, and I love this because there's a variety of cultures included. It's very diverse, and you get creation myths from all over the world, and it's just a beautiful book to use. And we dip into this all the time. Even when we're focused on a different book, we'll still sometimes pull that one out. We are huge fans of the Dallaire books. We have Norse mythology and Greek mythology. And I love these books because they're absolutely gorgeous. They're just artwork. They're beautiful to look at. The writing is great as well. I attribute these books to my oldest daughter Sarah's continued fascination with mythology. She read those books cover to cover to cover. Another great option that falls under this category is Aesop's Fables. There are tons of beautiful editions that you can find of these classic stories, and I particularly like these for beginning narration. So if you have a child around 6 or 7 who is just getting started with narrating, I recommend starting with Aesop Fables because they're short stories, so they're really easy to keep their focus, and they're just easy to narrate from. Next, let's talk about fascinating people through history. I really like the idea of introducing my daughter to amazing people in history. Honestly, she retains history so much better when it's focused on just a person and their life. She spent several years obsessed with Alexander Hamilton, and she learned so much stuff about the Revolutionary War just by focusing on one person's life. Thanks, Lin-Manuel Miranda. But some of the books that we've enjoyed for this is Mightier Than the Sword, Rebels, Reformers, and Revolutionaries Who Changed the World Through Writing. This is by Rochelle Melander, and I absolutely love this book. This is such a great resource. My oldest daughter is currently a creative writing major. She's graduating next month, and because of that, I think it has inspired my youngest daughter to be interested in writing. And so this book has opened her eyes to just so many different ways that people have used writing throughout history to change the world. And I think it's a fantastic resource for morning baskets. I also really like her story, 50 Women and Girls Who Shook Up the World. This is by Catherine Halligan and Sarah Walsh. This is another great resource to cover amazing women through history that most books just don't talk about. And I really like that it's diverse. I like that it's organized chronologically, so it's really easy for us to fit in stories tied to the time period that we're studying. Then I have 50 Trailblazers of the 50 States by Howard Megdal. This is a great resource when you're studying American history, particularly if you are doing a state study. We are really enjoying this, but I will say it's a little bit young for my daughter, but I bought it, so we're using it anyway. But I really like that even though it's a little bit young for her, we're still discovering people that we haven't read about before. So it's really great for introducing us to lots of interesting people. I like that this is also diverse. There's a lot of women and African Americans covered, and the illustrations are lovely. Then for geography, this year, as I said, we're focusing on the 50 states, but in the past we've used other resources to cover world geography here. But this could also be where you use flashcards, you could do map drills, you could focus on a workbook that gives you lots of like map reading skills. So there's lots of things you can do under the umbrella of geography. For our 50 state study, we are currently going through Only in America, The Weird and Wonderful 50 States. This is by Heather Alexander. And we own a lot of books, let me tell you, that cover the 50 states, like several. But I think this one is probably my favorite because it covers things that those other books just don't. This one covers things like favorite foods for each state, inventions that came from each state, slang from each state. So you get a lot of really interesting things that just don't get covered typically in those other kinds of books. There's also even recommendations for further reading, which you know I love a book list. So it's also a big colorful book, so this is perfect for putting in your lap or on a coffee table and reading over together with your children. So I like to pair that with a state coloring book. We have the United States of America coloring book from Jen Racine that I really like because the pictures in this are just like really detailed and lovely. So I pair it with this, and while we read about the states and people from each state, she colors, and I feel that that helps her retain the information. For world geography, a resource that we've loved is Atlas Obscura, the Explorer's Guide for the World's Most Adventurous Kid. I love this. It's beautiful to look at. This is the kids' version of the book Atlas Obscura, which I also have, and I'm probably going to pull out for my daughter now that she's a little bit older. But this is beautiful. It's full of interesting information and cool places all over the world. Moving on to art appreciation. My kids love art, so I'm always looking for great art appreciation resources to include in our morning basket. I'm going to start with Vincent Starry Night. You guys have heard me talk about this. I talk about it a lot, so it's probably not new to you, but I always have this on hand. Sadly, my youngest homeschooling child is beginning to outgrow this. I love that it covers art history chronologically, and it focuses on one piece of art and how that artist came about making it. It's a lovely addition to any art history curriculum. Another resource that we've loved is the art book for children. This is by Phaidon Press. I love this. This is one of my favorite resources. The white book is still easily available to find online. The yellow book, unfortunately, has become almost impossible to find, but if you're lucky, you might find it at a used bookstore or garage sale or something. It's possible. But I love these for young children because they are a great way to introduce kids to how to look at art. I love that the book kind of gives you a painting or a piece of art and then like talks about how to talk about it with your children. So you can read the passage and it sort of explains how to look at art. And I love that. It's a great way to begin your art study or your picture study. I also really love the Children Should Know series. These are lovely. I used 2 of them in level 1 of Build Your Library, and we've enjoyed those, as well as this one, which is 13 Art Mysteries Children Should Know. And there are several others in the series. I think they're great for adding like little tidbits of art appreciation into your morning basket time. Then finally, let's talk about philosophy and critical thinking. My favorite book for introducing philosophy to children is Big Ideas for Young Thinkers, 20 Questions About Life and the Universe. And this is by Jamia Wilson. I think this book is fabulous because it offers a huge, diverse range of thinkers through history and modern day, and it covers topics like identity and life and death and truth, what is truth, and culture and creativity. So there's a lot of great meat in this book to add to discussion, and it's also a large book. Again, perfect for sitting together with your child and looking through it. Another great resource for philosophy that I have on hand is Philosophy for Kids. And this is 40 Fun Questions That Help You Wonder About Everything by David White. And this one's a bit more traditional than the other book I just showed you, and this one works for an older audience as well. And I like that both of these books offer your children new ways to think, and we end up having really great discussions. This is why I plan these on Fridays, because we generally have a lighter school day on Fridays. So if we end up talking about what happens after we die for 2 hours, it's not going to derail our entire day. And then for critical thinking, I love this book currently. This is what we're reading through now, and this is Think for Yourself, The Ultimate Guide to Critical Thinking in an Age of Information Overload. And this is by Andrea Debink and Erin Michon. And I think this book is perfect for tweens. It covers a lot of great topics like how to ask good questions and how to find evidence to support your beliefs. And I like to rotate between this and Crash Course video series on media literacy, which is just excellent. And I think it's something that everyone should watch. I feel like these 2 things are giving my daughter a great foundation for learning how to think critically about the media she takes in. Of course, you can use so many different things in your morning basket time, from games to videos to books and flashcards. And, just evaluate your homeschool. Look through the materials that you already have on hand, particularly all those fun things that you bought with the best intentions but then stashed away for later. And then use that to put together something in your morning basket that works for your family. Don't forget to check out our accompanying blog post that I'm going to link down below in the description box. And that's going to contain all of the links for the books that we've talked about today in this video. If you found this video helpful, I hope you'll check out Build Your Library curriculum. Build Your Library is a secular, literature-rich homeschool curriculum inspired by Charlotte Mason's philosophy of education. Based on nearly 20 years of homeschooling, I created the curriculum that I wish I'd had when I started homeschooling my children. I've spent thousands of hours cultivating the best literature to enhance your children's studies. Our lesson plans make homeschooling simple. Just open your lesson plans, gather your books, and go. Our easy-to-use lesson plans include everything you need to homeschool. Just add math. Choose from our full-year K-12 levels, as well as fun, topical unit studies. With Build Your Library, you will cultivate a home library filled with captivating literature and raise children who will become lifelong learners. So snuggle up with our lesson plans and a good book or 3, and have your best homeschool year ever. There won't be a tidbit next week because I'm hosting the Tea with Emily live stream on our Build Your Library Facebook page, we're going to be discussing homeschooling when life gets busy. So be sure to check that out. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.